So hello and welcome to the first episode of VolleyChat. It's our new weekly series sort of beginning today to hopefully give you a little bit of entertainment during lockdown. We're going to be talking to some familiar faces every week, and today we're kickstarting the program with a beach volleyball legend, Denise Austin. Denise, thank you for joining us. How are you? Are you okay? And whereabouts in the world are you coming to us from?
Yeah, we're great. Thanks. Myself, my husband, and Nick and Layla, we're in Portugal in the southwest corner, a little village called de São João, which is near Lagos. And yeah, we're good. It's a bit cloudy. It's been a bit grey, a bit rainy, but it's after 6 months of no rain whatsoever, we're really thankful for that.
Brilliant, brilliant. And so, if it's okay, then, Denise, there's sort of three sections to this. The first, I just want to explore a little bit about your backstory. Secondly, move on to that transition then from indoor volleyball to beach volleyball, and then we'll finish on some questions. But first of all, I just want to take you back then to your really early experience then of beach volleyball. Can you tell me sort of where it all began and when you first picked up a beach volleyball and stepped onto the court?
It was a guy called Julian Reynolds, who was a lifeguard Croyd in North Devon, where I'm from, and he'd been working in Australia and had seen beach volleyball in Manly Beach being played. So when he came back to Croyd, he set up the South Pro Beach Tour. And so it was a series of beach volleyball events in Perranporth, Woolacombe, Croyd, and maybe somewhere else I can't remember. And so I played in a couple of events that summer, which I think was 1989. Let me think, 88 or 89 roughly. And so I played in those events and won. And we won the overall final, which was a European holiday. But instead of having the European holiday, they gave us £100, which was really a lot back then. So that I put that to sort of my future travelling really. And that was my first taste of organised beach volleyball events. And then the following summer was when I first heard about Weymouth, and then the rest is kind of history really. You join in the whole kind of, it was the Grand Prix series then, and started taking part in events. Went to Weymouth for the first time, and then joined the Grand Prix series. You had to register and get approved to play back then, and you had to agree to sign up to 5 events all over the country. So yeah, that was really when it all started.
And that was several years then after you'd been introduced to sort of indoor volleyball then at college.
Just 3 years actually. It was actually 4 years. I had 3 years at college where I discovered volleyball. Got dragged into a gym, didn't know what it was called, but I played badminton and knew that I liked kind of keeping something off the floor because I played badminton my life. My sisters were really good at it, good coaches. So and then yeah, just got sucked in, played college. We won British colleges for a couple of years. Got invited to play with Dave Pope for a trip to Germany in an England B junior team, and then got sort of selected for the national squad, the senior squad. Started training with them. Moved to Sale for a year with Ian Goswell and the likes of Donna Sedgwick, Joanne Powell, those kind of era of people. With I'm trying to think. Who was Mel Coots came a year after me to Sale, so there was quite a lot of good players coming through that era at the time. Spent a year living in Manchester, didn't really like it, wasn't cut out for it, didn't really fit in because I'd grown up on the beaches of North Devon. So, and I didn't know about beach volleyball at the time, but I just had a year. I just thought I can't, even though I want to play for my country, I don't love living in a city, and it was either there or London at the time. So I just really took a back step from volleyball and quit playing. Really went back to North Devon, and yeah, it was just thankfully that Julian Reynolds started beach volleyball. And my parents then emigrated to Australia in 1990. So we went out there from 1990 to 91. My husband and I saw pro beach volleyball being played on the beaches in Perth, and from that moment on, it was like, oh, that's the sport for me. I saw it at another level. Like I'd seen it recreationally, played it a little bit, like I said. And then when I saw pro players training and trained with them and played in a mixed pro series there, that was kind of it, really. I just thought that's a sport for me because it kind of gave me that. I always wanted to play for my country. I'd always wanted to play at a really high level, sort of internationally, but I didn't know that you could do that in beach volleyball at the time. And being there, that was it, really. It was the catalyst to, I guess growing up on a beach, having that sort of environment, the cultural background for being that way, like living outside, being outside, and then finding the sport that suited everything that you'd kind of done up to that point.
And so how much obviously the sport's popularity has come on and over the years, how does it compare then to today? So I guess the national circuit, the amount of players we've got playing, the number of events and the training there compared to sort of the 80s then, I guess, when you had the first introduction to just to beach volleyball.
I mean, it's grown exponentially in terms of like venues, places to play, people playing, you know, people's knowledge of the game, the way in which people are sharing it, you know, sharing their knowledge, you know, through YouTube and all the instructional videos. You know, we had to travel all the way to Australia to learn what a pokey might have been at the time, or how to do a pokey. We might have known what it was, but how you teach it, or you know, what does a good handset look like? Does it spin? You know, now you can go on and discuss all these kind of things, you know, online with all the best coaches in the world. Whereas at that time, it was really important to travel to meet people that had been doing it that bit longer, who'd been involved in programs that bit more than you, and had got access to playing on the beaches more regularly, more consistently. So the places like Brazil, Australia, and the beaches and the environment lent itself to be their culture had actually grown. I think the biggest thing for me, and I think the most proudest thing, is that the culture of beach volleyball has grown massively, but we have to deal with so many other things that a lot of countries don't deal with. So the weather, the wind, you know, playing dark, you know, having to adapt and making sure that you maximise weekends or trying to get floodlights at the where they are. So I'm really proud of, you know, when I see places like well, it was Tenby Beach Volleyball Club, now Cardiff, the Edinburgh guys, the Brighton guys, they've all been really hardcore for a long, 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 long time. And now with obviously the legends from London, the clubs there, and now especially with COVID, they're actually running more in where they can into the night times and into the winter. And so I think that mentality is fantastic that you get from British, you know, or anybody that plays beach volleyball in Britain. So people sort of say about the wind, and I sort of say if you don't play beach volleyball in the wind, you don't play beach volleyball in Great Britain. You're just always playing in conditions that are tough for most people. A lot of time in Brazil, Australia, America, not so much Australia, but definitely in America and Brazil, people are taking the beach in conditions that would be beautiful for us. They go, oh no, it's a bit cloudy, a little bit windy. I'm going to bin it, and they've sacked it, and people are credulous. So that I'm really like that sort of, you know, never say die kind of attitude playing is really good.
It's one of personally for me, one of the things I'm most envious of is the travel side, as you mentioned, you know, the places that you went to then to find out more about beach volleyball, to play and train with people then that knew the sport inside out. So you usually spent time, you mentioned Australia, South Africa, and we had a quick chat before this. We had a spell in Brazil, where you were saying that you'd literally just booked a ticket, you went across, but you ended up training with the silver medalist from the 1996 Olympics and the gold medalist. Am I right in saying?
That's right. Yeah.
How did it come about?
I grew up in a surf culture, so everybody in the winter would go to Australia or Hawaii or South Africa to find bigger waves, because in the winter it was just too cold and a lot of really blown out. So all the good surfers, and we produce quite a lot of good surfers in our area, would travel. So for me, the idea that I was a thing, kind of a cultural thing. So then I started looking at places to go. So my parents were in Australia, so we spent a couple of winters going there to start with, and then we started going further afield. So we went to America, because obviously that's like a mecca for beach volleyball. Spent you know, winter in Hermosa Beach, and then I guess I just thought, right, I want to, where's next? Really, I want to see all the places in the world and spend that time. So we decided on going to Rio, because obviously, you know, the Brazilian women especially had got to taken gold and silver, and so I thought, well, you know, go and find these places where these people are growing the game and they're learning the game and practicing their craft of what is it about Brazil that allows them to play at the level they are. So yeah, you know, with the Lonely Planet guide, you know, this is the only thing, Facebook, we booked a hostel in Copacabana, and we just walked the beaches looking for people. So there was no introductions, nobody could send you an email or whatever. So we walked the whole of Copacabana, couldn't find anybody playing beach volleyball. All we could see was old guys playing called Hatteria, which is no rules, or foot volley. So we walked for miles along there, went round the corner to Ipanema, walked the whole length of Ipanema, and eventually we saw one court where we recognised beach volleyball shots, so like the pokey, or it might have been, you know, they weren't volleying the first ball or chucking it or what have you. And so we went up to them and sort of began trying to talk to them, and they couldn't speak English at the time, and so they were espera, and they sent off for somebody that they knew that had studied in the States, a guy called Cesar. He turned up, spoke English, helped find an introduction for us. We got a flat 30 meters from this court, and we just went, right, we'll take it. And it was a lot of money. We had to pay it for 6 months in advance, but we just going to go for it.
What was their reaction then when this guy was explaining to them, these two women have come all the way from England. They don't really know where they're heading, but they want to play beach volleyball and they want to come and play and train with you. What was their reaction? Did they believe you at first?
Well, I mean, they saw, well, it wasn't two women, it was me and my husband.
Sorry, Nick.
And I was very much on a journey on my own, and I'll come back to that later about partners and stuff. But so me and my husband, or my boyfriend at the time, he was my husband then. We decided to do it, and I think they were just like happy to have you there. They're really open, really hospitable. They didn't question it. They'd seen the odd American come through or the odd Australian come through. So there weren't many of us, but they were the odd one coming through. Because I remember somebody saying, "Oh, there's a couple of Dutch people training in Copacabana," and that was kind of like, "Oh, there's another foreign person." Whereas now you go there and it's just littered with people training and playing, and people from all over the world going to Brazil. So anyway, yeah, they just helped set us up really, and we set ourselves up for 6 months and just bedded down. And on that court and in the apartment block that we got, there was a lady called Deborah Silva, and she used to play when she was younger, and her first beach volleyball partner when she was about 9 or 10 or 11 was a lady called Monica Rodriguez, who had won the silver medal in Atlanta. So she said, "Oh, I can introduce you to her. This is her court next door to the one where we'd found." Fantastic. She introduced me. She let me come and train and play with them for a couple of times, and then they said, "Well, I'm playing with Jackie Silver, who won gold at Atlanta this year. We're going to let you audition to become part of the training group with them. She's coming tomorrow to get ready for the training block that we're coming into." And yeah, literally all I had to do was set. It wasn't like all the other things. It was just literally I had to set well enough to know. And so I guess if you know beach volleyball is that one, most people think they can serve, pass, the setting is the underrated skill. And I kind of know now why they wanted to really look at it. I don't think I really understood. I was just petrified. Like Jackie Silver was stood about 4 meters away at what set about 10 balls. And at the end of it, she just sort of nodded and went, "Yeah, she's okay." And that was it. And so I trained with them for Jackie and Monica were together for about a month where they had a training block, but I trained with Monica for the whole time. So the whole time I was there, I think it ended up being 5.5 months. My dad died. I cut the trip a little bit short, but yeah, so that was amazing. So every day, 8:30 or 11:30, 5 days a week. And then at lunchtime, I would train 3 times a week with the number 5 Brazilian pair, which was Magda and Souza. And then in the evenings, me and Nick would go and pick up social games with all the guys that we've met at the beginning. So it was literally non-stop 24/7. And then Monica was amazing because she'd train all the hard, she's doing all the gym stuff, everything else. And then on the weekend, she'd come and play with all the old guys, and she played Hatteria with them. So she taught me a lot about playing with anyone and everyone, and never kind of, she was training with the gold medalist, but also at the weekend she'd be playing with old guys that she'd known since she was a kid, and they'd be kicking her butt and chucking the ball all over the place, and she'd be playing beach volleyball against them. So it was everything as it sounds. It was like a real eye opener towards the approach to people, the fact that they were so open, so inclusive of me. They were really, really, and they didn't ask me for any money. It was amazing. They knew that I put myself out to be there, let me train with them, and that was really special. And I think that give back has always been, that give to me is always part of my give back. When people are like that, they pave the way for your approach and your attitude towards things. And if you're able to really see what the gift that you're given, then you're able to then share that. And I think that's some of the magic that was given to me there for sure.
It's an extraordinary story. You're going there just trying to find beach volleyball, trying to improve, and then coming across and being able to train with the Olympians. But it's not the only one of your sort of incredible stories. Then I guess from sort of traveling around the world. There's another one that stuck out for me is when you were saying that you went to traveled to Portugal, and to fund your trip, you created and sold crossword puzzles.
Yeah, it was before the GoFundMe. We didn't have a national program of beach volleyball players. We didn't have any, nothing was there really set up for us. And so I just literally created a crossword on an A4 sheet of paper, printed up a couple of hundred copies, and started selling them for £1 a piece. And I sold it to, well, I can't remember how many exactly I sold, but we think we gave £5 or £20 to the eventual winner, and it funded our trip. So myself and Vanessa Malone, Vanessa Lucas, we went to Portugal and we played in our first in Espinho in Portugal in 1995.
That's on the World Tour, was it? Was that?
Sorry, say again.
Was that on the World Tour, the FIVB World Tour?
We're in the qualifier. I think we beat 2 Portuguese teams, and we lost to a Brazilian team and a Canadian team. So the Brazilian team ended up, they were like the third Brazilian team in the tournament or something. And so they were really good. So we got our ass handed to a Canadian team. We had a great game, but we didn't manage to seal the deal. But I think we got 15-13 to get into the main draw. So I guess when you do that close at your first event, it gives you a taste of what you might be able to achieve. Because, the whole point really of going out and getting your first international blooding, and seeing what the rest of I remember I've talked to a lot of people about, because I've written my book on the guidebook to beach volleyball. I sat in the stands after I'd been knocked out, and I was you might not know these people. I was sat between Angela Rock, it was Carolyn Kirby, Liz Mastermeyer, who are all really great from America, and we were sat chatting, and I was just writing notes on, and I just literally must have written probably about 20 pages of what I was seeing, of what people were doing, about how they were doing it, how they were, it might be in the mental preparation, it might be in the physical stuff that they were doing, how were they, was it a 3-step a jump, or was it a 4-step topspin serve, was it a float serve, were they standing, what were they doing with the wind when they were playing, and I just literally watched all these great players and just started writing my book, really. I mean, it was on my own notes myself, but when I look back, it's like that's the start of my whole journey about documenting what I was seeing, and about how you then able to sort of pass that on, but also retain the information for yourself as well.
So I guess well, first of all, you really encourage people that want to go out and compete and play at the highest level to read that book. And is it just called A Guide to Beach Volleyball, isn't it?
Volleyball, and it's for sale on the Volleyball England website. So, yeah.
But the second step, that what would be your advice from all your experience? What would your advice be to those athletes who are competing, then I guess on the World Tour, and those that aspire to that level as well? What would be the best advice you would give them?
I think you see it a lot with a lot of the young players now, and the accessibility to travel, and the fact that they have been able to save up, is to get out there and start doing it. So of course we've got a great program. We've had a brilliant junior program that's been funded, over the numerous now, and a lot that have come through that are now competing on the World Tour. But even if you haven't come through that program, but you are a player that wants to play, you just have to get out. You have to it's experience. I think we were talking about this earlier, that it's the psychological experience of playing. So playing as much as you can domestically, playing against as many people as you can, boys, girls, playing with good people, bad people, doesn't matter who you play with and against anyone. And then really just throwing yourself off at the deep end and go and getting your ass kicked, at an event, and then knowing what you've got to do next, because there's nothing like that to then tell you and teach you what you need to do to get better. So you come back from that and you just keep going. The bit about beach volleyball is the environment and the culture that you find yourself in, so that you're enjoying the lifestyle, you love the place, and you just thrive in that environment. So I think you don't necessarily have to love and live it, but I think when you find that most people really embrace the whole culture of how, and also you don't necessarily have the coaches, the support network that you might typically have on an indoor team. So you do become intrinsically more motivated. You have to become much more reflective about your own learning processes and about how you do things and how you keep on point and how you keep on task. So I guess to sum it up is, just do it. Make it happen yourself. Don't let anybody else tell you can't. And the big thing I've always said is never underestimate the power of somebody's mind. So if you want to do it and you think that you can do it, go on and do it. You know, don't let anybody tell you can't.
That sounds so familiar. From when I chatted to earlier in the summer, we did a brief Q&A, and there was almost word for word for that she said to me as well. That mindset that, you know, if you want to do it, do it. Don't let anything get in your way. You were talking about experiences then, and sort of, I guess, positive experiences or successes and things that maybe not gone so well. And one of the other things that really stands out then from sort of your international career then is how you came so close to qualifying for the 2000 Olympics. A huge year for many years, many different reasons. So could you just explain then just how narrowly you missed out on going to represent GB? I believe it was Sydney.
Well, if you at the Olympic qualification process at that time was that you had to finish in the top 24 world. And so you had to compete in as many tournaments as you can, your top 8 events. So in that qualifying period, we traveled to 18 countries from 1999 to 2000, and our best 8 results gave us the Olympic ranking. So going into China, which was the last event of the season, there was Bulgaria, Mexico, and the 2 British teams all in that last 20, 23, 24, 25, 26 spot, you know, vying for those last couple of places. I think the ones above that were pretty much a done deal, so the gap was quite big, so you couldn't really break that one. Yeah, we had an okay tournament. I think we finished 13th. We lost to Japan. I think, anyway, I can't remember back on it. We lost and we were out. Next day, the last events, and there were 2 matches. Bulgaria were playing Germany, and if Germany had won, we would have gone to the Olympics. But Bulgaria won, so they went to the Olympics. So then it meant that Audrey and Mo were not playing because they were ranked in 1 position behind us. So then the next match was Italy versus Mexico, and if Italy won, we would have gone to the Olympics. They were up 8-0, started to rain a little bit. Mexico looked really nervous in the beginning, and then Italy just started making loads and loads of mistakes, and Mexico won. So you're sitting there at 8-0 thinking 7 more points and you're going to the Olympics, and then they lost. And so, you know, you're sitting there, you're heartbroken because everybody knows what's going on. People are watching because it's such a tense moment, that last event ahead of the Olympic, you know, drawing the line. And so, you know, I remember getting on the buzz and seeing Mo, and we just couldn't speak. You know, there's no words. You know, you cry a lot. You feel like it's death in the family, although that sounds an exaggeration. I think every person has that, aspiration to go to the Olympics. And so when you're that close, it's really, really, really tough. You know, and you can't really speak to people, and there's you don't really need to at that point. It says it all.
I can imagine sort of watching that unfold as well, and it being out of your hands, that, you know, you're not in control of that situation, are you? You know, you're hoping and praying it goes in your favour, but there's nothing you can do.
So our Olympic rank is 25th. So in the next sort of period of time, which is probably about 6 weeks away from the actual Olympics, you're just hoping that somebody might break a leg, or, you know, get the Tanya, whatever she was called, that gets a shotgun out. But, you know, there's kind of part of you that's kind of clinging on to a little bit of hope. You know, and in the Olympics after that, there was an injury to an Austrian, I think it was, and they didn't have a substitute who was eligible, so the next team did get to go to the Olympics. So it does happen, but it obviously didn't happen for us. And you know, it's a good story in fact that it's one to tell. Not everybody that competes on the world tour can go to the Olympics, no matter what your mindset and how much you want it to happen. There are things that if you do differently, I definitely would, but that's a whole other strong conversation for psychology and the mindset. I definitely is improved. My mindset improved on for sure in terms of, you know, defining your goals, setting yourself, you know, a lot of the NLP sort of stuff that I worked on post that period of time really help focus you. So I guess it's, you know, but again, if I had gone to the Olympics, Ellie wouldn't have been there, and that's a different journey. So in that respect, I wouldn't change a thing. You know, your kids in the world when you have them, and you know, she's brought so much magic. Ellie-sized hole in my life at the moment because obviously she's in the States and we're here, and we haven't seen each other since June, so, and we probably won't see each other until spring of next year because of the situation. So I'm so thankful to have had her in my life. The 18 years that she has been with me, really connected and spent a lot of time.
A positive to come out of such negative then, I guess, as well, or such disappointment. So that's great. So another, I guess, sort of similar. I think it's sort of around that time. I've been a little bit early then as well. Then that your sort of second passion it's sort of come to the fore a little bit more, and that is the beach volleyball coaching. And obviously you've overseen sort of well over, I think it's 100 camp sort of training camps. As you mentioned, you've offered the guide to beach volleyball, and you've been involved in the national teams and sort of helping guide our next generation. It'd be good to sort of talk a little bit now then just about that transition because from my understanding, there's quite a lot of players then that start with an indoor and they make the transition into beach volleyball. And it'd be interesting to sort of explore that a little bit more. So I guess the first question is sort of why, if I was an indoor player, sorry, why should I consider beach volleyball? What am I missing out on?
I guess the biggest thing is you touch the ball a lot more. So if I'm an indoor coach thinking, okay, why do I want my kids to play beach volleyball? Because there's always been a little bit of a tug of war between indoor clubs and beach volleyball clubs, and then indoor players getting brought into beach volleyball, and the players like, oh yeah, but I want her for my. And I guess what I would say to those coaches is they're going to touch the ball a lot more. So they're going to play. So if you've got your middle player or you've got your libero who's, going to have to hit or, stand and hit a ball over or whatever things they aren't practicing necessarily indoors, they're going to get a whole lot more of it when they come to the beach. So one, they're going to get a lot more touches. Two, they are going to get, it might not be the same fitness in terms of the sand and the surface, but the fact is they have to think on their feet all the time, every time they touch the ball. So they're going to be adapting to every situation constantly. So those are the things that you want thinking players as an indoor volleyball coach to really enhance what they do. And then I guess the biggest single thing would be the psychological side of things, is that you have to deliver on the beach. You can't know when to get substituted off. So you have to steel yourself. You have to find within yourself, the reasons to make something happen, the focus to concentrate on, yes, I've got to get the serve in, but it's got to go on target to a certain zone, and it has to happen now. I can't wait for somebody else to deliver because it's now 19 all, and if I don't deliver a good serve right now, they're going to side out and they're going to have the match point, set point, or whatever it is. So the focus and the concentration, the discipline improves, and I think most coaches would say that they probably would see that when their players start to play a lot of beach volleyball. I mean, is you just there and you start play in the lowest level of tournaments you can, and pick up as many games. Go and stand on the side of the court and wait until there's only 3 people so you can join in and be the 4th. You just got to hustle and organize and plan yourself, and work from the bottom up. Don't expect to come in at the highest level. If you're a great indoor player, just start by playing at the lowest level and then go, okay, I can go more than this. Okay, I can go more than this, and just work your way up, because I think what that will do, give you a mindset as to how to help every level of player play. And this is one of the big things that I do at my camps is if I'm a professional, brilliant player, and I'm playing with somebody that can barely play, who's a beginner coming on my camp for the first time, and I'm looking at them thinking, oh, well, you're not going to do me much good as a player. You're not going to help me grow. What I'm going to look at them is any problem that you give me, which is going to be potentially really difficult to solve, is only going to be equivalent to the highest level of professional player that I'm going to be playing against, who will give me the hardest possible problem I've ever got to solve. So playing with people that can't play and having to put the ball on a plate so that you can keep the rally going, serving it on point so that you can actually dig it so that you can keep the rally going. Those are some of the things that I spent a lot. We didn't have to play with, so we had to make a game happen. So there's always something to be learned from whoever you're playing with. So when you first start, never assume that you're not going to get something out of it. And then the more you give, the better players will see you busting a gut, and they'll invite you to play, and they'll open their arms to sort of let you join in. But you definitely don't want to develop a diva attitude. I'm good at this, I should be playing at that level. Well, actually, you can get you aren't at that level, even though indoors you could be in the Super 8s at the top level. But actually, you don't know enough about the wind. You don't know enough about how to support your partner, that you're not quite yet. So yeah, read what you can, look at all the instructions, but then yeah, put yourself out there to just be humble and grow with the people around you.
And you think playing beach, so if you're an indoor player playing beach, that can improve your indoor game and vice versa?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we Academy of Beach Sports, and this is something I'm really proud of, in 2004. And a lot of the kids, I mean, Ellie was probably 3 at that time, Anaya was 5, Lauren Huggins wasn't even in our club. I mean, Hayden Lawson, Sam Dunbavin, you know, a lot of the good juniors, Lily Constable, were sort of starting to come through our club. And we were playing beach volleyball in the summer. What happened is they started to want to play and get better. So we started doing indoor volleyball sessions during the winter. And setting up sessions, you know, for them to learn. And then they started playing in Mini Grand Prix series, the Southwest Mini Grand Prix. And basically over the next whatever years it was, until I think Ellie must have been about 11 and Aneo was 13 or 14, when we won our first national indoor cup at under 15.
Okay.
So it took us probably 10 years to get that model of indoor volleyball playing. But then we went on a really successful under 15, under 16, under 18 cup winning run with those amazing beach volleyball players who played indoor volleyball to play it harder and stronger and faster, to get better at beach volleyball. So I think you can do it both ways. But the fact is, they were, you know, a lot of the players that we had in our club were international indoor and beach volleyball players. So I'm very proud of what we sort of achieved through that time, for sure.
No, great players. So we touched on the physical aspect, touched on the mental aspect. Is there a big difference in the cultural side then to both versions of the game? What could you expect is different then if you've gone from indoor to beach?
I mean, I said earlier, in Great Britain, it's definitely the conditions. You know, you get the idea it's a lovely, you're playing out, you know, in a really nice environment. Well, sometimes it is, and on days you're like, oh my god, this is what I'm doing it for. But a lot of the time, you do have to develop a kind of a love of the great outdoors, and that's, you know, a British mentality is if it's wet and windy on a day at the beach in Great Britain, you'll always see people with their dogs in anoraks, and there's such thing as, you know, bad clothing, just the right clothing kind of thing, and you just get kitted out for it. So, you know, that culture in Great Britain is really something. But also when you travel, you do get those luxury times when you're in the environment. Talk to Anaya and Ellie, and they're training in 30 degrees and Anaya's in 40 degrees a lot of the time, you know, and we love that lifestyle of being able to guarantee the training and the training hours. And I'm not saying that you should only have that, but the consistency that comes with being, you know, like why the Americans are so good, why the Brazilians, is the consistency of the weather and the training level and the level of training that comes with it. And yeah, the lifestyle, and they love the outdoors, and they, you know, they both brought up in beach environments, so they love the, you know, the outdoor lifestyle for sure.
And then the last thing just on this segment, then what kind of attributes do you think you'd be looking for in an indoor player to successfully make that transition into beach, and what makes them successful, or aren't there any particular attributes that would make a good?
I think you can always see talented individuals, but like I touched on before, it's the brain behind that talent that is the thing that really you don't know. And you just give I always think you just afford everybody the opportunity, give them the same thing. So then it's about their organization, their discipline, their intrinsic motivation, their gratitude, their ability to, you know, be consistent and professional. And all of those things then have to develop to be the all-round player. So, I mean, a lot of coaches say, oh, they look amazing, they've got great talent. But at the end of the day, there's no one physical attribute that I would say would stand out more. Obviously, height's a great advantage, but you need all the discipline that goes with all of that. You know, being an amazing hitter that can jump really high and whack the ball, brilliant. But if you can't make the decision not to do that, you know, there's so much to it. So just if you're a coach getting people into beach volleyball, don't close the book on anyone, really.
Good advice. Good advice. Brilliant. And so then the final little segment then, if it's right then, Denise, just want to throw a few questions at you then, sort of touching on your career, touching on the current time, just to find out a little bit more then. So the first one, to put you on the spot, who is the favourite athlete that you played alongside then on the beach volleyball?
Ellie.
Ellie. Because she's your daughter, just that the the fantastic moment of getting to play with her, or
playing with your child is really special. So when we beat Jess and Vicky in the national championships in the summer before she was due to go on. So she went to America in 2019, so it was 2018, and she sort of basically begged me, because I don't usually play at that time of year because I'm usually on holiday with my husband and it's like family time. And she just basically begged me, and I said, well, you better ask your dad. And Dad was a soft touch and said, okay, we'll go. So we went to the event in Boscombe and we played together, and it was just brutal conditions, but looking, when you're receiving and you look across and it's your daughter and it could be the last time that you play with her, and then you see her achieve things. She served brilliantly in the final, so she basically won the final there to sort of do her thing really, and just managed to just keep the ball going. And yeah, so that's really special, but also the mindset that she brought and the approach to things that she does. And she's a tough cookie to play with, but that's what you want as well. And she constantly would not harass me, that's the wrong word, but she'd question me and make sure and I think that was kind of good really. It wasn't all sugar and roses kind of thing, but I was just very proud. And also I was 50 when I won with her, which I'd set myself a target of winning an event when I was 50. And and it was a national championship, which I'd never won with her. We'd been in the final a couple of years before, and we'd lost to Jess and Vicky then. So I think it was really nice to win a national championship. It's probably my last one, her first one. And that memory is really special.
and is she 21, 20?
She's just 19.
19.
Yeah.
So she's obviously got a fantastic career ahead of her as well. She's just still at the very, very, very beginning of that. So yeah, lots of talented athletes that may not know on both sides and the beach side. So we've got obviously the Olympics coming up. The men can still qualify, Commonwealth Games, and then the Paris Olympics after that. So it's an exciting few years for beach volleyball on that. So yes, we mentioned Ellie. Then you said it's your favourite person to play alongside. Obviously, your other daughter Layla as well. Has she caught the volleyball bug that obviously you, Nick, and Ellie have got?
No, she says it's boring. Yeah, she hates your. I have to bribe her to get her to do anything when I do little skill stuff, and I need a child to play. But she's just brilliant in her own world. She's really, really creative. But I knew that from the get-go.
Yeah.
You just get sent. By the time she's 2, Ellie was picking up a ball and following me to the beach and wanting to watch. And she was peppering really, really early on, whereas Layla just had no interest really. She was more interested in making castles on the same page. And she's just that every parent will tell you that every child's so different, and she really is, and she's just a joy. And it's really lovely now that we've got this time. We're home educating at the moment, and we're really just blessed to have this sort of special time to spend with her.
And you said earlier, so you're in Portugal at the moment as well. Early this year you bought a piece of land, or was it last year? And that's where you're based.
We bought it. We went into lockdown in Portugal, and we decided that obviously my business has collapsed. All the events that I run, all the camps that I was running, everything was getting cancelled, and we weren't sure about whether we should come home because we rented our house out living in a motorhome. And we just decided that we would stay in Portugal. We were looking at pieces of land. One of the sellers of the land let us rent it from them, and they lended it to us. And it was basically a try before you buy. And then we bought the land now. So we've got a well. We've got drinking water in the local village. And we've been permaculturing, so we've been trying to develop the land. Enjoying doing my rock gym because an old well with loads of rocks. So I spend a lot more time outside working the land and growing things, and hopefully we'll get a beach volleyball court on there as well, and so that I've got a retirement court that I can come to. And who knows, we've got our Portuguese residency. We're planning on coming back and being in England in the summer, working for 5 months, and then coming back to Portugal for 7 months. So but right now planning with COVID is really hard, so I think we're just trying to be really present like a lot of people, and just really enjoy the situation that we find ourselves. We've got chickens, we've got a dog, we've got land, we've got vegetables. It's a very different life. So I'm seeing it like a COVID sabbatical. I've always had a job since I was 13. I've worked really hard in beach volleyball for many years. So this is a really special year of, a different kind of growth. So yeah.
Yeah, it sounds fantastically stripped back and relaxing. Like I feel less stressed just listening to you and trying to picture the place. So I can imagine what it's like living there.
Yeah.
So returning then to England, what would you say would be your favourite place to play?
I guess my favourite place, and not just because I'm in Portugal, would be Espinho, which is where we went for the first ever trip with Vanessa. But then in 1999 and 2000, in 1999 we qualified out of the main draw, and we lost our first match. Then we beat China #1 in the second round to take a 17th place. So they went on to win a medal. So we beat them there. So that was great, taking the 17th in our first event that we qualified for as a team together. And then the following year in Espinho, we qualified out of the qualification tournament into the main draw. And then we took a 7th place finish in Espinho, which is the highest place finish on that level of tournament. So it's equivalent to a 4-star. So it's the highest finish for any British team ever. And it still stands, which I'm kind of proud of, but I wish it wasn't as well. I wish we had, but that's another long story as well. So, and what I love about Espinho is, one, it's Portuguese are so friendly and hospitable, but the sand's so soft, and it's it really suited me, and it was, and then if I had a favourite place to train, I'd probably say Rio, but obviously changed a lot, but at the time, I would say, yeah, for sure.
And if you had to pick somewhere in England, if it's a bigger beach, would it be Croyd? Would that just be the one place over all of us?
Place to play and train would be Croyd, and a place to play and win would be Weymouth. I mean, everybody wants to win in Weymouth. I mean, it is the Wembley of beach volleyball, and I've said this over and over again. And they've done such a fantastic job because all they do is focus on the tournament. I mean, they've grown their indoor volleyball club and they've got the stuff in the National League now, but they were very, very much for a long period of time just about the events. And you could see that in the details. And it's no surprise that they were heavily involved in running volunteers at the Olympics in London. Yeah, it's really special and it's really something. And I think the fact that everyone wants to win it makes it, all the more kind of special when you do pull out that win.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Well, fantastic. Thank you very much for taking the time, then, Denise, to chat to us here. I think, is it raining where you are now? I can sort of hear some.
It's raining. I'm trying to shout. It's actually, can you hear that now?
Is that the thunderstorm?
Yeah.
We timed it well then. We just.
Thunder, and that's so rare. We haven't had any of that for months and months. So yeah, it's sorry. You don't have to be scared, David. It's just a bit of thunder. It's all right.
I bet it's good. I'm sure it's good for your crops though. But you're pleased for that.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to do watering, and the well will get filled up. So yeah, it's pretty good.
Oh, brilliant. Well, like I said, thank you very much. It's been fascinating tapping into your experience, and hopefully, sort of this time next year, then we might be able to meet on a beach court then somewhere in England.
Hope so. I'm planning on being back there in the spring. I hope to see you then. Thank you so much.
Brilliant. Thanks, Denise.
Cheers, Stuart.